Welcome back, my fellow patriots, to the Save Our Republic daily video series. We are now moving forward in the Constitution to the 16th Amendment. It was passed on July 2nd of 1909 by the Congress and ratified on February 3rd of 1913. It changes part of Article 1, Section 9 of the original Constitution. It provides the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without appropriation among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. That's a lot of verbiage that most people have problems grappling with. Basically, it approved an income tax directly on the people from the federal government. Originally in the Constitution, and a direct tax, which would mean a tax that goes from the federal government directly on a person or a piece of property, needed to be apportioned among the several states, which basically meant that depending on the population of the state, the tax that was derived and came to the tax funds that were derived and came to the federal government would have to be in proportion to the population. So, for example, if you had an income tax, it would be almost impossible to have the same rate across the country because, let's say, there's a lot more wealthy people in California, and therefore the income tax will draw out more money per person than it would in Idaho or in Mississippi. Then that would not be proportioned correctly. So there was a Supreme Court case which struck down an income tax in the 1800s, and this was meant to change that. A couple of other highlights. This was part of the progressive movement, not today's progressive movement, but the progressive movement in the early 1900s. And there were a number of reforms that were going on, including good governance reforms, anti-corruption reforms, things that they would consider to be more scientific governance, empowering the federal government in a way that would help effectuate policy and a nationwide system. The progressives were very much fervent believers in the idea that experts should be in control of the government and that we should consolidate more power to the federal government so that those experts could do their business in connection with national policy. And they also thought that the federal government needed to be able to spend more money, and the income tax was a way to effectuate that, but to gain a fundamental source of revenues. And in fact, the income tax is now the primary source, the largest source, perhaps is the better term, for the federal government. Before it was customs duties and excise taxes and those kinds of things, and now it is the federal income tax. When it was first passed, there were a great number of debates about it, and the naysayers said, don't pass the income tax. If you do, the federal government will blow up the amount of revenue that it can take in and subsume the states, and that huge amounts of money of personal income would be sucked into the federal government, and there will be this inexorable desire to expand the federal government. Those in favor of it said, these concerns are overblown, that would never happen, the income tax is going to be very small, and it's just going to give us a little bit of revenue. It didn't take very long for the naysayers to be proven right, in the sense that income tax rates jumped up tremendously, and although the first income tax basically could be filled out with a single sheet of paper, it is now extraordinarily complicated, requiring millions of hours of manpower and women power to be able to figure out taxes. But that is where we are. So when we're coming up, it's March 19th today. April 15th is your traditional tax day when income taxes and all federal taxes need to be filed for individuals. And you can thank the 16th Amendment for that great joy. Until next time, don't forget about America's Survival Guide at americasurvivalguide.com, Patriot Week at patriot.org, and the Patriot Lessons American History and Civics podcast. If you're enjoying these videos, do us all a favor, like them, subscribe, and share. God bless you, and God bless America.